Fine, so still working through the Hakdama of the Ramchal, he says the following. This hits pretty hard. Hits pretty hard for a couple of reasons. Let's take a look. Since it's already been made clear, been already made true to every Chacham, tzorech temimos ha'avoda, the need for temimos ha'avoda, the need for our avoda to not just be perfunctory, and not only be half-hearted, even if half of our heart is really devoted, even if half of our heart at least is in it, which I think today we would consider to be a maila. But we said that that's insufficient. It needs to be temimos ha'avoda, the idea that the entirety of our emotions, the entirety of our effort, the entirety of our focus, be engaged in our avoda. V'chovas taharasa v'nikyona, the need, the obligation for our avoda to be pure, to not be sullied by any ulterior motive, that we're doing it for the right reasons, that we're motivated by the right things, that it be clean, that there not be any pania, there not be any inclination towards another direction because we've decided that something other than serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu is really where we should be at, where our head should be at, where our behavior should be at. So you pause right there. Is that true? The reason why this hits so hard is that he says that that's something that every Chacham is aware of. That's a level in of itself. Just that awareness. Forget about actually performing. Forget about actually making good on that idea that the entirety of my avoda should be complete. It should be full. It should be pure. Just coming to that realization, that in of itself requires some meditation. It requires stopping and pausing and really considering. Is that really the case? Or is it that, look, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is pretty happy when I do, like an 80% job. 80% Hashem, this is for you, 20% is for me. Right? When I keep Shabbos, when I sit down to the Shabbos Suda, Hashem, really, if I had it my way, I might be elsewhere. I might be shopping, I might be surfing, I might be sleeping. I could be doing any number of things. The reason why I put this whole thing together, and the reason why I went to shul this morning, when I stopped my agenda, where I'm not working today, I'm not taking care of the things that I personally might be interested in doing. It's for you, largely it's for you. But push comes to shove, how much of my eating and how much of my enjoyment is really for HaKadosh Baruch Hu and how much is for me. So maybe something of a mix. The idea that a Chacham recognizes and realizes that every single aspect of whatever it is that we do really ought to be dedicated to Hashem. That, to me, it's a pretty hefty level. It just means that I'm not sure that I personally am in the category of Chacham that the Ramchal is talking about. When he says, everybody realizes that this is supposed to be the case, you have to pause and dig and consider, is that really true? And then hopefully we at least come to that recognition. We come to the realization that yes, Hashem's demands really are far greater than what we tend to give, but they're far greater than what we even tend to think we ought to give. It's not like 80-20 and it's not 90-10. That really we should be giving 100% of ourselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which really, the Ramchal develops this idea later on, but this is the notion and the concept of shleimus, the concept of trying to wring out every fiber of our being, every brain cell, every emotion, every experience, every resource that Hashem gives us really ought to be dedicated to Him. It might come with a certain measure of enjoyment and fulfillment on our ends. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm motivated to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu completely and fully. That's where a Chacham ought to be. Shazulas Eila Eina Nirtzeis Vadai Klal. It hits so hard. He says, if we don't do so, then we understand that it's not going to be desirable to Hashem. Our avoda is going to be lacking. Hashem won't want our avoda. Ella, it's hard to read the words. Ella nimeses soeves. It will be nimes. It'll be rejected. It'll make Hashem nauseous. It will be abominable. To'eva is a word that the Torah uses rather sparingly for things that are of particularly repulsive import and of a particularly repulsive character. The idea that if I don't give Hashem 100%, the idea that if there's this 90-10 split, that Hashem looks at that avoda and He says that is an esesum so eves, should be aware, and I think this is obvious, right? Rabbi Schlenger points this out at the bottom, that what the Ramchal presumably is talking about is midas hadin, meaning that if we'll be honest with ourselves, this is why he speaks about the Chacham is aware of this. The Chacham realizes that the midas hadin, that this is the way that it really should be. There's no reason why I should hold back from Hashem. There's no reason, if I really pause and consider what is the purpose for which Hashem put me on this earth, it's to connect to Him, it's to serve Him, it's to be able to glean from Him, less so in this world, much more in the next world. And therefore, again, every experience, every moment of the day, every precious second, every precious emotion, every precious aspect of my personality, every precious resource really should be dedicated completely to Hashem. Does that mean that Hashem doesn't accept our avodah when it's something less than that? Impossible. At the very least, we know that Chazal said that mitoch shelo lishma bo lishma, that if you can't bring yourself to serve Hashem completely, fully, with all the greatest kavanos, okay, so then do something a little bit less than that, and Hashem will still accept it anyway. But that's Hashem's rachmanos. I mean, that's Hashem saying, like, you're not really doing what you're supposed to do, but I'm going to accept it anyway because He's merciful. But if we pause and think, and we enter into that world and that mindset, that mentality of a chacham, we hopefully realize that that really does fall short. It's not where at least ideally we should be, at the very least, in terms of goal setting and trying to level up and think about where we really should be. It should be in a place that's far more pure and far more comprehensive. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, after all, desires the entirety of the heart, and He understands everything that we think. Which is an incredible idea. The notion that if I have a stray thought, okay, so Hashem, I didn't mean for that thought to pop into my head. I didn't mean for that sinful thought and machshava to pop into my head. But that nevertheless, that is representative, or how did that become manifest? It means that there's something wrong with the machinery, as I've created it, that it's capable of producing those kinds of thoughts. I had this machshava that I was going to take from the cookie jar. How did you have such a thought? It means that I haven't completely, fully, comprehensively trained myself to be a machine of avodas Hashem, to even produce the kinds of thoughts that are completely pure. It means that we still have work to do. HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands every thought that we have. What will we respond on the day of rebuke, meaning on Judgment Day? If we weaken our grip, if we're lazy in terms of this iyun, in terms of this analysis, this aspect of our avodah, something that is so obligatory, something that devolves upon us to fulfill. This is the primary core of what our avodah is supposed to look like. This is what Hashem is asking of us. He's asking to produce proper thoughts. He's asking to produce proper emotions. He's asking that we be committed to Him, that we be connected to Him. It's very easy. I don't know that it's very easy, but it's easier to put on tefillin and to not think about tefillin. It's easier to keep Shabbos and to not really think about what the Shabbos experience is supposed to look like. It's easier to refrain from 39 malachos and to eat the seudos and to say the tefillos, but then emerge from the experience of Shabbos not feeling any closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But that's not really what He wants. What He wants is for that to level up. What He wants is for that experience to actually permeate, and then it does something to us, and we're connected to Him. Our machshavos are different now. Our emotions are different now. We're more engaged with Him. We're more connected to Him. That's really what He wants of us. So the next part circles back to, next sentence, he circles back to, this is not only a critique of people who aren't otherwise involved in Torah. It's people who davka are involved in Torah. But what does the pie chart look like? How much of your waking moments of avodas Hashem, direct avodas Hashem, learning, meditating, studying, thinking, how much is dedicated to the kinds of, or the aspects of Torah that are very holy and very important, but aren't really moving the needle forward, at least in this respect, and how much is dedicated to fundamentally transforming who we are as people. It says, he's talking about Torah. How much time are we going to spend on, we even use that term in more popular, more common parlance than they did in the time of the Ramchal, chakira. Chakira is a lumdish analysis of a din, of a halacha, and it's important. This is all of Brisker Torah is predicated on this idea. This is what we spend our time doing in yeshivas. I don't think he's saying don't do that, but consider that if a person is only engaged in those things, so we spend all of our time learning zvachim, and 90% of it is dedicated to kohanim. And Kohanim aren't even performing those malachas. That's important. They have to get prepared. Machon HaMikdash. We have to presume that the Beis HaMikdash is going to be rebuilt at any moment. They have to be in mode. Absolutely. How much does that affect the Yisrael? Almost none. Almost none. And when I go to the Beis HaMikdash, will there be other people who maybe know those things already and they're able to process my carbon for me and they're able to tell me what I need for Nisuch HaYayin, for a carbon mincha and whatever else? Yeah. There will be other people who can take care of that. So what do? So I spend all my time, engaging in those kinds of thoughts, those kinds of activities, that style of learning. And this great obligation that we have to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that I be emotionally connected to him, that I think about him, that my machshavos be directed towards him. Na'azvehu lahergel v'na'icheu l'mitzvahs hanashim milumada. He says it's not that we've forgotten about it, but it just becomes by rote. Right? As he discussed, everybody knows that this has to be part of our avoda, but we think that we're already there. We think that I'm a good person. And if I'm a good person, I'm an Eved Hashem. I love Hashem. I'm appreciative of Hashem. So we believe things that like Hakaras HaTov and my midos and gratitude and connection and thinking about Hashem and B'chol Avav V'chol Nafshecha V'chol Maladecha. These things come naturally because I know, of course, that's how a person serves Hashem. The problem is that when we don't spend active time thinking about them and learning about them and trying to move the ball forward in all of these areas, what ends up happening is it's not that they're completely off the map and we think that they're unimportant, but practically they become unimportant because it becomes by rote. It ends up falling by the wayside, and it's a shame. It's not only the person who spends zero time learning Torah, and shame on you, how do you not engage? No, even if we're learning Torah, his point is that there has to be some measure of time that's dedicated to these kinds of pursuits so we become the people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu really, really wants of us. It's hard, yeah? Harsh.
It's an avoda.